Hi, I'm Andrea, and I've been involved at Malagash as a camper, volunteer, and staff member since I was about 7 years old. Today I'm going to read a passage from the book of Mark chapter 10, verses 46 to 52. Jesus heals blind Bartimaeus. Then they reached Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. When Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." "Be quiet," many of the people yelled at him. But he only shouted louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." When Jesus heard him, he stopped and said, "Tell him to come here." So they called the blind man. "Cheer up," they said. "Come on, he's calling you." Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked. "My rabbi," the blind man said, "I want to see." And Jesus said to him, "Go, for your faith has healed you." Instantly the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. So I want to talk about three main events in this passage. The first is in verse 48. Bartimaeus calls out to Jesus, and the crowd tells him to be quiet, but he doesn't listen to them. Instead, he shouts louder until Jesus hears him. This makes me think about the number of times I allow myself to be silenced by the views and popular opinions around me, instead of calling louder for Jesus. I think that Bartimaeus had the right idea when he heard the crowd telling him one thing, to be quiet, but chose not to listen. Instead, he persists in shouting for Jesus, even louder than before, because he knows that whatever Jesus has to offer is better than what the crowd is telling him. I can definitely learn to be more like Bartimaeus, trusting that seeking Jesus is worth defying the world around me, and that when I feel discouraged from following Jesus, I need to not just persist in shouting for Jesus, but to shout louder. The second thing that happens in this passage is that when Jesus responds to Bartimaeus, verse 50 says that he throws aside his coat and jumps up. I read a devotional about this passage once that talked about how Bartimaeus' coat may have been one of his only possessions and sources of protection. He may not have had a home or many other clothes, and so his coat was probably pretty important for protection and warmth. Imagine being so excited that Jesus wants to see you that you throw off your comfort and worldly protection without a second thought. Bartimaeus probably didn't even have to do that intentionally. He was just so eager for Jesus' healing that it was a reflex to leave his coat behind. How many times do we leave what we know to pursue Jesus without a second thought? I know that I rarely do. I'm learning how to sacrifice my comforts and other things that Jesus asks me to leave behind, but it's almost never without at least a little bit of consideration. I challenge you and me to get so excited about responding to Jesus' call for us that we don't think twice about throwing off our coats. And third, the last two verses of this passage are when Jesus heals Bartimaeus, instantly. And then Bartimaeus follows Jesus down the road. This last part of the passage are a reminder to me that Jesus' healing is free, instant, everlasting, and that it makes an impact. Bartimaeus doesn't just say, "Thanks, Jesus," and carry on begging on the side of the road. His lifestyle has been changed by Jesus, and so he follows him. I think this is the beautiful thing about encountering Jesus. By taking care of our blindness, our sin and shame, and anything else we may carry, he also takes care of our hearts and changes us so that we can leave behind what we know and follow him. I hope this passage is encouraging and challenging to you today. Thanks for listening.